we'll always be judging. It's part of the human condition, but the whole point is so that we can learn how to love each other more.
Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast, where you'll be not only allowed, but encouraged to dream big dreams and imagine the very best future for yourself and your family. Throw away expectations and perfection and embrace the messy beauty of what it means to be a marvelous mom. I'm your host, Kirsten Tyrell, and I can't wait to help you discover what makes you marvelous. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode. I was just telling Nikki that I'm really, really honored to have her here because she's one of those amazing entrepreneurs who also likes to hide in a cave sometimes and pretend that she doesn't need to keep mingling with the world. And she has a huge docket of podcast requests, but I am super lucky that she has chosen to come and spend time here with the Marvelous Moms podcast. So you guys just take a moment to pause in honor of this moment happening because it's really exciting. And
again, no pressure.
You guys
Everyone pause and take a moment of appreciation for the gold we're about to drop, right?
Except for I know that with confidence because I've listened to your podcast. I follow you on social media. And so I do have a glimpse of how fun this is going to be. But I think it's going to wow people out of their seats. You guys are going to be obsessed with Nikki by the time we're done talking. And I almost feel like this is a risk factor. I'm going to send people away from our and they're going to, what if they
Hashtag abundance. Hashtag abundance.
No, you're totally right. But you know how that is when you introduce two friends and then they become best friends. You're like, hey, I'm still here. I know.
Right. Third wheel. Great. Thanks, everybody. Totally.
What did I do? Yeah. So no, totally. Hashtag abundance. There is so much goodness coming from her show, which I hope you will go check out after you fall in love with her here. But let's give people an introduction. So they're like, who even is she and why is Kirsten so obsessed with her? So Nikki Elledge Brown, who are you?
Who am I? I'm I have the bio I emailed you last night. Should I just read that out loud? I am a self-proclaimed word nerd, military spouse, former park ranger, college professor. I am a mom of two. And yeah, I'm really all about building life and business on your own terms right now. I've learned to manage my F's over the last few years in terms of permission slips and really owning who I really am and what I really want and what I'm willing to realistically do in order to create that life. And the doodles, I like to draw and doodle. And I like to play with words and speak in word pictures. So I'm sure we'll paint some word pictures in this conversation. But I am a stand for each of us owning who we are, what we want, and doing making choices that are actually in alignment with that. That's this little light of mine, that's the whole point and purpose. And the more that I can do that, the more I'm modeling it for my kids to do that, my friends, my sisters, my colleagues, and all of that. I think we're all better off when we own our spark, our corner of the world,
Yes. Oh my gosh. See, I'm already obsessed with this conversation. And it just started. I want to ask you, so that's great. Fantastic. You have two kids. What are their ages? Just so everybody kind of has that mental picture. Because I think it's important to know there's still there's so few entrepreneurs who are moms building business and family at the same time. So I like people to know this isn't this perfect situation where you built a huge empire and then had children. So what are the ages of your kids?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I pretty much only work with moms who have businesses. So I'm in my experience, I'm surrounded. I could step over a mom who is building a business too.
Yeah.
But I started my business when my oldest was 18 months old, and then he's going to be 8 in just a couple weeks. I don't know when we're recording or when this is going live, but we're about to celebrate his birthday actually next week. So he's going to be 8, and then Deaky is just behind him, about to turn 4. So there's a 4-year spread with a couple of losses between here and there, but we've got 2 humans on the ground keeping us humble and challenging us to grow. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. I love it. I love to kind of have that picture. And you're right. You're definitely in the right community here. There's a lot of moms who they resonate with that mompreneur kind of lifestyle, but I just feel as a whole in general, we're still rising to the top, right? We're still trying to prove, or I feel there's a lot of us still trying to prove that we can do both and that we can own that space and have the success of home and the success of our business. So I love talking to people like you because it just kind of helps drive that whole point home. But I feel that's even coming from a space of struggle and it's this hard thing. And I love just even your introduction of yourself, how it just sounds like there's so much alignment and you know you can do 100 million things, but it sounds like you've kind of focused on what I realistically can do, which is a stage that I'm Kirsten Tyrell, I'm now coming to after 4 years of being an entrepreneur. I can do it all,
Yes.
but I don't need to do it all, and I don't
Uh,
want to do it all.
Yeah, 100%. And I can divide it into like the first 3 years of my business and then the last 3 years. And then the next chapter I'm really excited about, which is why I'm finally saying yes to podcast again and actually getting my message out there too, because I can see exactly how each piece and phase has served
Mhm.
what the next one, like they're just layers building onto each other. Although, of course, in the mess in the moment, it certainly did not feel that way. I did
Right.
not see the divine order at play. I was like struggling and arm wrestling myself to be like, no, I don't want it to be this way. I want it to be this way. And now I'm like stepping into another layer. Of course, then I'm going to bump right into another one. But like on the
Yeah.
little spiral staircase of lessons, I'm finally like, okay, I get it. I get it. I can see how each of those led me to exactly where I need to be right now.
Fine. I guess there's a divine plan at
All
work. I guess
right.
I'll play
Okay.
along.
Yes. Hashtag blessed. Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit. I feel like most people listening might be in that early stage, that first 3 years of your business, which is basically like the toddler phase, right? Like there's a lot of tantrums, there's a lot of identity crisis. How was that stage for you? And looking back, like what advice do you have for moms who might be in that stage of building a business with their
Yeah.
family?
It's funny because mine was the flip. Like,
Mm.
it's almost like I came out of the gate, looking like a teenager, even though I felt like a toddler on the inside,
Ooh.
because I had a lot of success right from the beginning. Then I created that drawing where it's like what you think it's going to look like, success looks like,
Yeah.
and it's like the arrow up to the right. And then what it actually looks like is like the arrow with the squiggle, 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 and then it goes that way. I
Yeah.
started off with that super obnoxious arrow straight up because I literally within
Oh.
2 months had $21,000 in
Oh my
revenue.
gosh.
Yeah, it was like intense. And then 100,000 in the first 10 months. Like my first course launch was 50,000. Like on paper, everything was like, whoa, boom, but, which was exciting. And I built huge momentum right from the jump, which there are benefits to that. And
Yeah.
there are drawbacks to that because then you
Right.
expect, okay, where do I go from here? Now I didn't start my business and it wasn't all about, I want to make money. It was like, I have these gifts and talents that I've noticed, what I call the divine breadcrumbs. And I feel a knock on my head, like it's time to share them in a bigger way. So I
Mm.
wasn't even thinking really about the money. But then once I knew, oh my gosh, it's like everyone has a money tree. Oh my gosh, unlimited potential. I can make as much as I really want. Oh my gosh, I need to make 1 million like in the next 5 minutes or else I'm like a total failure and I'm not living up to my
Oh my
potential
gosh.
and I'm worthless and blah, blah, blah. So that's the downside to having that success super early on. And so that first 3 years was like blowing and going. And I was working one-on-one. Then I created the course. Then I launched the course. I had a community of people following and trusting me. And I would share affiliate offers as it made sense of things that I believed in and blah, blah, blah. So it was super profitable from the get-go, which
Yeah.
makes people want to discount and be like, annoying and roll the eyes. But don't you worry. I created my own squiggles after the birth of Deaky. So about 3 years in is when I had Deacon. And then that's when I had this like, I'll slow it down,
Mm.
crushing moment of mom guilt because we were at Aulani, our favorite place on the west coast of Oahu.
Mhm.
And because we lived in Hawaii, that's context. We lived there for 10 years. Both my babies were born there. Husband's in the Navy. And so I remember being there at the character breakfast with Mickey Mouse and my parents and my husband and now my two little ones and doing the math to realize that later that year, Bryson was going to be turning 5. And I burst into tears. I was like,
Oh.
oh my gosh, it's going so fast. He's going to be in school, like full-time, day school, kindergarten soon. And I feel like I've spent so much of this time with my head in my laptop, just one more email, super connected to like the whole world, but not as connected to him as I wanted to be. And at that moment, everything started, it was like a little tremor, like a little earthquake beneath me.
Mm.
I'm like shaking in my bouncy seat right now. It shifted everything. It sparked a values shift for me. So the caveat is at the time it was crushing mom guilt. And I was like, this isn't how I want to be showing up. And I felt shame and guilt around it. At this point, over the last 3 years, I've actually done a whole lot of personal development and growth and reflection to realize I'm so grateful for the first 3 years of me. I'm so grateful to the one who had her head in her laptop because that's what enabled my husband to come home for better and worse, to be home with us every day.
Yeah.
Like, so if Bryson was like, oh, you're working, I'm like, you're welcome. You
Right.
are welcome because
Yeah.
daddy wouldn't be here if I hadn't done what I did and we saved what I made. And that was a huge privilege to be able to do that. But we were smart about saving as much as humanly possible. And we bought ourselves time for my struggle squiggle season of the
Mhm.
last 3 years, which was like, wait, what do I really want to be? How do I want to be showing up at home? and what do I really want to be talking about in my business? Copy was what I started with, helping people with clear, sincere communication, because that's my background.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, that's just one piece, it's
Yeah.
not like Oprah's out there teaching courses on how to interview, and that's what I felt like. I'm like, yes, I can absolutely help you with that, but I do think it's more of a zone of excellence than my
Yeah.
actual combined zone of genius. So
Right. Oh my gosh, there are so many things you just said that I want to like go deeper into, starting with divine breadcrumbs, which I love. And you're like, that was like the
yeah,
first thing I said. Why are we rewinding that far? But it
let's
is,
do it.
I'm starting to see that. And I'm realizing, like, do you feel like there's this pattern? And I don't know if everybody will go through this. And I'm sure it's at a different pace and at a different, like, maybe it's not in the same order, but it's resonating with me the way you're saying this. Is it's kind of like all about us at first. And like, even the way you said it, you had the skill and you were able to pass it on. It was still
Yeah,
just this hustle, hard eyes in the laptop, do the thing, do the thing. And we just kind of stop paying attention to the world around us, and we get very narrowed in on this specific world that we're trying to build. And then there is that like droop. Like I'm in the middle of the droop right now where I'm like,
mm,
I know what I'm capable of, but I don't
mm-hmm,
even know if I want to do that again. Like I don't know if
mm-hmm,
I need. So I'm starting to see the divine breadcrumbs in that was an essential part of my life. That did create so many blessings, and I'm grateful for that. But I
yeah,
am starting to pick up on it. Just goes to it goes almost like to a spiritual level where you're able to take a deep breath and have this level of calm, and then everything takes on new meaning, where you could literally go and recreate that business model, but it wouldn't be the same because you have a different approach and you have just a different like mental awareness. And I don't know, I just loved hearing that, like the divine breadcrumbs that led you to where you are. And once you can start to trace those and pattern those and really have more awareness at a different level. I don't know if this is making sense to anybody else listening, but I think you're maybe getting it because you've obviously gone through it. It's just
yeah.
such a different shift. And there's not even a question in there. I just think that was a really, really cool like identification of there's a lot where it's all tied in. Like it's all tied
Yeah.
in.
And I like it's all on the way, not in the way is a phrase John DeMartini uses. And I love that. Like it's all on the way, not in the way, as opposed to
Ooh,
getting
yeah.
so frustrated with where you are right now, thinking that it's like, I'm not where I want to be, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, well, no, but exactly where you are. Like if you did a future self visualization, and I love those, a
Yeah.
future self, and you're like talking to her, it's like, she's so grateful to you for exactly what you're doing and going through right now. That's exactly what she needed to be able to get where she is. When we can meet in the middle, then that's the best thing. But it's so interesting that your reflection, I was like, actually, I feel like my experience was the opposite, in that I did start with that focus on what I could do and how I wanted to serve, and what were
Yeah.
the ingredients I had that I could share. And actually, I think the wheels started to get wonky and started to fall off when I put too much focus on
Yeah.
other people's expectations
Yes.
externally, because my best stuff happens when I get the hunch and I do the work. I don't know if you've ever read books from Florence Scovel Shinn. Back in the 20s, she was writing books, and it kind of melded like what is more of a, I don't know. You can look her up. the
I
game
do
of
have one
life
of
and
her
how to
books.
play it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
was like, oh, she was kind of bridging the gap to me, like Bigfoot between Jesus and law of attraction. She was kind of like
Yeah.
both to me. Like my faith has actually expanded a whole lot from when I started off. And so I appreciated, like, she played a key role in kind of connecting these pieces and helping me redefine my faith in a way that is more expansive to me and feels more grounded actually now. But
Yeah.
all that to say, to me, I work best when I'm getting the hunch, doing the work, closing out the noise of whatever the other people are doing, not
Mhm.
worried about like, hey guys, what do you want me to create? Because if I don't want to create it, I'm going to be resentful and empty. And I'm going to
Yeah.
feel like I actually want to distance myself. Like when I started doing Facebook ads and like tripled my list, but not that many people were actually becoming customers, then I started to feel weird. Like, you're just using me for my cheat sheet. Like I started to feel weird and like not want to email people. Like I really
Yeah.
appreciate the organic growth and real relationships, REAL, relationships and connections. And so the more I get back to the basics of that, that's what makes me feel sparky. That's what makes me feel inspired. And that's the whole freaking point of what I was talking about earlier, which is like, we've got to do what we are uniquely designed to
Yeah.
do, and not just play the role of like, hey guys, what do you want me to be today? Who do you want me to be today? It's not sustainable and it's not fulfilling. And I'm not interested in that
Yes.
anymore.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I feel like you did a much better job at summarizing that pattern, because I know you said it was pretty opposite of the way I described it, but I think that's what I was trying to say is the way that you described
Yes.
it. It's such a unique evolution where it's really hard to pin down, but you did a really good job of explaining it, which means you must also be a
Thank you.
podcaster, and I'm just really excited to be here.
Well, communication in words was supposed to be my thing originally,
Right.
right? No, but
So
it's all,
true.
again, it's all perspective. all perception. We're all
Yeah.
just holding up mirrors for each other. So whatever you needed to hear from it is exactly what you needed to hear from it. And
Exactly.
however it makes sense in your brain is however it needs to. So
Yeah,
that's all
I
good.
love that. And that's good advice for everybody else listening. Even if you're like, Kirsten, I don't know what you're trying to say, but what Nikki
No,
just
it
said
made
meant
perfect
something to me.
sense. Yes, it made perfect sense, but it's like there are benefits and drawbacks to making it about other people. To some degree, you want to because you're not communicating or serving in a vacuum. You do need to take other people's
Yeah.
feedback into consideration as long as you're also counterbalancing that with your unique expression
Yeah.
and your mission and your purpose and your values. Both. That's the Mutual Inspiration Society, and that's where the magic happens because we need each other. We're social beings. We were designed to be in community and connection with each other, and we feel more alive when we are. So yeah, both.
Yeah.
Hashtag both.
Hashtag both.
I keep speaking hashtags.
You must be on
It
social
says a
media.
lot about me. I'm not even. So I do analog. I just say it. I don't even use hashtags on Instagram, but I'll just say them in conversation.
That's so funny. I love it. Oh, I really, okay. So even going back to like that Mutual Inspiration Society, I love that. And I think it's kind of just finding like the healthy balance, right? Of, because I've recently started stuff out of that obligation of like, well, this is what I actually started hearing. This is really scary to hear people say, I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. I can't wait to see.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to put this expectation of like, well, what do you want to see me do next? Like, what are you expecting
Right.
of me?
Performance anxiety.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
major
Mm-hmm.
performance anxiety. And then I started to create out of that obligation of, well, I'm really good at this. So this is what I'm supposed to give people instead of where
Yeah.
I've kind of been guided now. But then when I finally aligned with more of like, okay, but what do I actually want? Like, who am I? I'm not a mom who's
Yeah.
like going to sit and journal every day about how beautiful the lilies are outside. Like, I'm not that kind of a mom, but I'm a mom who's like
Yeah.
obsessed with playing with her kids. And I homeschool my kids because I can't get enough of them. And so
Ooh, I'd love to hear more about that.
yeah, and it's a really, really fun, interesting journey, and I finally started being like, "I'm not gonna do stuff just because I feel like I'm supposed to. I'm gonna exist in a space
Mm-hmm.
of, like, what I actually feel like I've been called to do," and I love that you talked about Florence Scovel
Flosco. Let's just call her Flosco.
Flosco. I love that, like, the bridging the gap between Bigfoot and God and all of the things, you know?
I was like, I do think she's a Bigfoot.
It
Like,
is
he's just law
true.
of attraction. I couldn't see how they related, and then I read her stuff. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's
Yeah.
just different, different expressions, same, different labels, same idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that because I'm starting to understand that there's a lot of information out there, but it's just a matter of like listening to your gut, listening to that spiritual guidance and finding what it is that makes you come alive. And then no matter what you do, even if it's a mom podcast, if it's Naptime Empires, whatever, it's going to align and serve
Mm-hmm.
people and serve you, which mutually benefits everybody. So I love that.
Yeah, it's so interesting you share that because I'm actually thinking about, again, I haven't been, well, I say again, we didn't say this, I don't think when we were recording, but I'm super sporadic with my own podcast because I just record it when I have a lesson that I want to anchor in, mostly for myself. I love listening to my own podcast. I really do. It's notes to self. I even considered that as the title at some point. It's notes to myself. Like, ooh, that was an important lesson. I need to listen to that again. And I just know, again, speaking of selfish creation, knowing that it's actually going to serve other people, it always does. Like,
Yeah.
I'm anchoring it in for me without fail. When I share it, someone's gonna be like, oh my God, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm actually thinking about, I don't know if I'm going to bring it to a close or leave it open and keep it open because I would like to turn it into a book form at some point. So it's not like it's ending.
Mhm.
I might keep it for like mom and business conversations, but I'm actually thinking about launching a new podcast in the beginning of the new
Oh
year
my gosh.
where I can like, talk about all the things in my
Yeah.
way as I want to. So, and it doesn't have to be through that filter because a lot of people won't listen to Naptime Empires just because they think, oh, I'm not a mom or
Yeah.
I'm a mom and I don't have a business or whatever. And of course, everyone is welcome. But with the next idea, I
Mm.
think it'll open things up a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
we are
I'm excited about that.
we are so alike. Now I know why Ben was like, you guys are gonna probably never hang up the phone because guess how many I have like 8 to 10 podcasts because I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like there's just a different message that needs to be shared with a different audience.
Yep.
So I get that. So I'm excited to see though what's coming out for you next. And I'm obsessed with the podcast that you already do have. And I don't care if it's sporadic. And I do agree with you. Like, this is why I tell people like start a podcast. If for nothing else, like then for yourself. And because there's
Yes.
nothing but good will come of you having one. And every interview, I'm just like, that was all for me. So if you guys got something out of it, congratulations.
Bonus.
Icing on the cake bonus. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
It's so fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So I love how also you mentioned like permission slips and lowering the bar because
Yeah.
I think as moms we get into that mom guilt mode. How did you shift out of it as you were explaining it? when you guys were at Alani and you had that massive wave of guilt, how did you start to phase out of that into the gratitude of the years where you hustled and had your head in the laptop?
It was a mess and it took months, if not years. And now I actually have a tool I can use with my one-on-one clients that it can take an hour,
Oh,
honestly,
man.
or less, or less. Yeah. So like, but at the time I needed to go through that so that I can actually relate to people who go through that. Just like
Yeah.
I created a season of struggle in my business so that I can actually be like, yes, I get that, rather than intellectualizing and being like, oh yeah, I understand some people struggle in business. I don't know what that's like. Like that's so annoying.
Can you imagine?
But that was it. Like that was my perspective, because I was like, I don't know, everything I do is just like, it's working really well. So I had to create that so I could experience it. Likewise, even with like my miscarriages, like being able to go through these experiences is helping me be able to help other people learn the lessons. I feel like it's a field guide, basically. Like I'm just kind of passing my notes back. I love to doodle and draw and stuff too. So it's like, I'm just going to take this note, pass it on, or I'll read this book and listen to this podcast. But the shortcut, and I have a whole episode on this called The Gift of Mom Guilt, and I forget what number it is, but if you search
We'll link
Neptune
to
Empires,
it.
you'll find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically I was only finding the drawbacks to my family of me with head and laptop ignoring Bryson mode,
Yeah.
and I wasn't totally ignoring him, of course. But I was only seeing the drawbacks. And so when I actually started to look at the benefits, like I said, my husband was able to come home. Like we were able to save a lot of money that I didn't realize I would be appreciating in this season when I just decided to take my foot off the gas for business.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful that we've had this money, and that money hasn't been a stress, even though I've been like, well, I don't actually feel like offering anything right now. And life needs all my full attention. It's a huge privilege, but it was also a series of very intentional choices that we made. So being able to see the benefits and not just the drawbacks helps you with anything and everything. And this is part of the work. It's called the DeMartini method, and also his values linking stuff too. I could get super nerdy and talk about that for a really long time, but in brief, I would point you to that podcast episode called The Gift of Mom Guilt. But in essence, that's what it is. It's about seeing how did they benefit from it. Because if you're only seeing the drawbacks, you're just seeing half the picture.
Right.
You're just not seeing the full picture. So that's why you're feeling feelings about it rather than appreciation and like just actual presence and gratitude for exactly how it happened.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I'm going to check that out, and I encourage everybody to go listen to that, because I think it's a topic of conversation that's really, really hot among moms, and especially with this community. And I still suffer from it, even though I'm also coaching women to work through it. And I'm like, why am I still feeling this? So maybe that'll just be the magical Nikki Elledge Brown Midas Touch episode that will just change it for everyone.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's basically you'll just get a shorter rebound time. It's never going to go away because we're human. So we're going to have our feelings, because that's a feedback loop and a system for us. Like whenever we're having a strong feeling either way, positive or negative, or perceived to be positive or negative, we're just not seeing the full picture. Yeah. So when you actually pause and have the presence of mind to actually notice both sides of things, then your whole life and perspective changes. And it's kind of annoying because then it's harder to relate to other people who don't see both sides and things so quickly. Yeah. So it does have its challenges, like the drawbacks of actually having that presence of mind. But once you do it, it's like, whoa, game changer.
Well, and like why, I mean, yeah, I guess that is a drawback. I feel like even at this very low elevated level that I've gotten to thus far, you kind of lose the relatability factor with a lot of people the more you choose to grow spiritually, the more you choose to grow at a different level of understanding and comprehension of the world around you. Your circle has to get smaller because there's very few people willing to do that work and move into that space. But it's seriously not even worth the trade-off, like, yeah, it's a little bit harder to relate to people, but I wouldn't give it up for the world, even if people are silently judging that I'm on my soapbox all the time, because there's a better way. It's fine.
Totally. And we'll always be judging as part of the human condition, but the whole point is so that we can learn how to love each other more, so like, it's good that like we can have that awareness. And then it's also good for someone to challenge us to high heaven on whatever we actually care and value most, because if we're reacting to it, it's like, that's an opportunity for us to grow. That challenge is for us, right? Again, the whole on the way, not in the way thing. So it's just going to keep happening, and we're all human and we're all needed, or we wouldn't be here. So there are people necessary at all levels of awareness playing a very important, valuable role on the planet at this moment in time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I want to change gears just a little bit, because I want to give people a little bit even more insight, because I feel like we're talking about a lot of like where you are now, but I want to go back into not even just the struggle as you went through those different stages of your business, but even just as a mom, and how difficult some of those transitions can be, because you mentioned your husband was in the military for a lot of the time that you were building that initial business. And yeah, we mentioned
all the time.
the whole time, the mom guilt looking back, but what how did you kind of work through the struggle while you were in it, as you kind of had a lot of, or what, actually, I kind of want to shift that question. What motivated you to do it? Was it because
Okay.
you wanted to get him out of, having to work and you wanted to retire him early? Or was it this need to fulfill something that you felt compelled to do? Was it, did you loved your work so much? What was kind of the driving factor?
At first it was just inspiring, and I literally felt a call, like a knock on
Mm.
the head, like, hey, I gave you these gifts, it's time for you to share them in a bigger way. It didn't feel like a choice, it felt like an
Ooh.
inevitability. Like once I
Mhm.
felt that knock on the head, it was like, you can pretend like you didn't just feel that, but I mean, it's not
Yeah.
going away now. It's just sitting there like a
Right.
kid, like outside the bathroom door that's just waiting for you. They're not going
Right.
away anytime soon. So like you can pretend like you ignore it. So I had to, like, I literally felt inspired from those divine breadcrumbs. Like, I got to try something. Then it wasn't for money at first, because I mean, I knew, oh, if it's a business, it needs to make money. So who's going to be able to pay me for help with communication? Entrepreneurs. And that's kind of how it went going. But like, I thought, because at the time I was making what I call paychecks of the heart. I was working for the National Park Service and making like $14 an hour there. And then I had part-time like college adjunct faculty positions that were also not paying a ton of money. So I was making $25,000,
Mm.
$35,000 a year, even though I had
Wow.
my master's degree. Like technically they were like, we know this is an underemployment situation, but I was like, well, it's better than
Right.
an unemployment situation. And I'm grateful to be able to do what I do. So there's that. Cause I always wanted to keep my finger on teaching in case I wanted to go back and teach at like a community college in Hawaii or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now I realize I can create my own classroom, which is pretty sweet. So that's when I let that go. I was like, oh, wait, I can actually, spend a lot more time on the fun facilitating the light bulb moments rather than the grading paper stuff. That's more
Ooh,
fun.
yep.
Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, so it wasn't about the money. Originally, I thought maybe I'll make $20,000 in a year, because at the time I was like, I'm going to give 10%. We're going to fund a well. It's $2,200 with the organization that we were funding the well. I was like, that'd be cool if I could make 20,000 in the year. And it ended up happening in month 2. And I was like, whoa.
Okay then.
So yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh. And then, like I said, that's when I was like, oh, okay, now, okay, I'm seeing how this works. I'm seeing the potential here. And then when I made it about the money primarily, that's when I sucked the fun out of it, because I was like, oh, I'm supposed to scale. I'm supposed to keep distance
Mm-hmm.
between me and my people. I'm supposed to do this, blah, blah, blah. And money is great. I love money. I'm super thankful for the role that it plays, but that's not my primary inspiration, my number one value. It's up there. Wealth building is one of my top values for sure. That's why we saved, even before I started my business, we had a very healthy savings account, nest egg set away.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't my main driver.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. And I think that was probably an inspired question, because I think it's an important answer for people to hear, because I hear this a lot. I have a lot of women who come to me and they're like, I feel so inspired to do something and I don't know what it is, but I feel this call. And it's exactly how you worded it, right? Like, I feel this call to do it and I almost can't not do it, but I just don't know how that's
yeah,
supposed to look. And then they get caught up in like the logic and the, how instead of the why and the push.
yeah,
And I think sometimes we discredit how our why isn't about money and we want our why to matter. But sometimes our why is just our gut and it's just our heart that's guiding us and pulling us to do something, because there's no possible way for you to have known the women you were supposed to impact, the businesses you were supposed to help build, the impact that you're going to make. And if you had gotten that all up in your head and tried to create that much around it, it probably would have stalled you in your tracks, right? Like, it would have been way harder.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that's when I did realize, oh gosh, oh dear. Okay. All of these people are listening. They're actually clicking whatever I'm asking them to click. Okay. I should be here, blah, blah, blah. And then I started shitting all over myself. And then that's when things weren't fun anymore. And I also just want to say, it's totally okay. If the money is the motivation, then that
Yeah.
is fine too. Like whatever it is, you just have to be really honest about it. Because if you're not honest about it and you're saying it's about the money, but it's actually about the fact that you have something to contribute to that's outside of your home,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to be honest, because that's going to affect your productivity and your efficiency and your focus and your discipline and all of that. Because if you don't really care about the money, then stop leading with that and link it to how it's actually going to help you make that contribution and how that contribution helps you have more energy for your spouse and your kids, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then everything changes and makes it more efficient and more inspiring all along the way, because you're willing to, is it Liz Gilbert or Brene Brown? Somebody talks about the ish sandwich. It's like you're willing to eat the ish sandwich. Such a gross analogy, but it's like there's going to be challenges. It's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies. There is going to be a squiggle series at multiple points throughout the journey. But if you really care about it and you can actually see how it's serving you in fulfilling your mission in this lifetime, whatever that may be, and that can change year by year, season by season too, then you're willing to face all of that. You're willing to deal with the challenge. You need both support and challenge to be able to grow, and that is the whole point.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. And I think that's such a huge lesson right there. Like if that's one of the biggest things people take from this episode, I think it's so important. And it's something I wish somebody would have told me 4 years ago as I got started, because it was easy to focus on that surface thing. The first inadvertent mentors I had was from a
Yeah.
podcast called 8 Minute Millionaire. So to me, I don't, like it was the money. It was the money. It was like, I don't want to live in a crappy apartment the rest of my life. I don't want my husband working a nonprofit forever. I want more than
Yeah.
this. But I also
Yeah.
feel like if I had been really deeply honest with myself, it took me a while to realize that still wasn't even the driving force. Like money would solve some problems. But once I had money, there was still like a yearning. It wasn't about the money. After I had it, I was like, but I'm not impacting enough people, and I have to help more people, and I have to do more. And so I do think that my why surface level was money, but I think you just have to be honest with yourself. And again, there's nothing wrong with the money desire. It's just having awareness of what it truly, truly is and getting deep with that. And sometimes even letting it be enough to just say, I'm supposed to. I don't know why, but I'm supposed to. And here I am, and I'm going to do it. So
Yeah. And it'll shift because sometimes it'll be about the money, just like whenever you're eating a meal. Like if your body's telling you you're hungry, then you're going to value food. And then once you've eaten the food, then you're not going to value the food until your next meal. You know what I mean? Like It's a cycle. It's built in to be that way. And oh gosh, you just said something that sparked another thing. Oh, the pressure we put on ourselves to like save the world. Let's just discuss that for a second, because again, referring to Liz Gilbert and her book, Big Magic. And we were talking earlier about like how we like to listen to our own messages and stuff. And she talks in Big Magic about like, please don't try to save us with your book. Like when she was writing Eat, Pray, Love, she was not trying to save the world or inspire a whole generation of women. She was writing the book that she needed.
Yeah.
And so often we can become so arrogant and put ourselves on the pedestal to be like, everyone needs this or else their lives are going to be terrible and fruitless and unfulfilling. And it's like, no, like they're going to get it from somewhere. Nothing's missing. Like they are going to learn. Someone's going to cover it. I haven't been recording, but thankfully you've been recording and you've been serving people even when I've been hiding in my cave, vice versa. We're all necessary. So it's like you can take the pressure off of feeling like you need to save the world while also fully owning, like, this is the trick. It's like, don't feel like, you're God's gift to creation, and also know that you are, like, both sides.
Yeah.
You are not a special snowflake, and yet you are, because we're all made of the same ingredients. So in that sense, it's not special, but also your design and how you're put together is unique in this lifetime in all of humanity. So like, please do your thing and take up the space that you were designed to take up, no more and no less.
Yeah. I like that. And I think I'm going to put snowflake emojis or something all over the collateral when we come out this episode. You're not a special snowflake, but you are.
You also are. Mom says yes.
Mom also says no sometimes.
That's right.
You're so hilarious. Okay, so we have a couple more questions I want to ask. And we talked a lot about books and things that you're reading, but what are you currently reading right now that you want to share with people that you're obsessed with?
What am I reading right now? Oh my gosh. Oh, I was just reading a book by Kelly Roach called Bigger Than You, which is about like team. And it's really good. It's like a short read, but it was good. It was inspiring to me about team building, because that was something at the peak of business, the first peak of business. A few years ago, I had so many people and everything felt so out of control because it was like contractors. I joke that it was like an orthodontist office up in here with like retainers everywhere. I was like paying thousands to you, thousands to you, thousands to you, thousands to you. And it just felt like a runaway train. And that's actually what I'm most looking forward to helping people with moving forward in my new offerings, is like just pausing for long enough to actually be like, hang on, what are we doing? What do we actually care about offering? Who is actually going to help us grow, rather than just like, now we're just adding more to the bottom line. So I really appreciate her perspective, because it's balanced between mentoring and like really pouring in, almost treating your team like your clients, like where you're actually teaching them and nurturing them, but also making sure that they have a clear plan to profit, not just like grow the revenue of the business, but actually multiply the investment in terms of profit. And so I just appreciate that perspective. It's just funny because I haven't actually been reading business books in a long time.
Yeah.
Because I haven't been valuing business for business sake. But now I'm actually switching back on. And so again, you'll read and care about and spend money on stuff that you're valuing. And so it was life and personal development and spiritual stuff and travel and girls trips. And now it's like, okay, I'm ready to click back in and spend my money here on this segment of life now.
That's a good that's a good life lesson for everybody listening too. Like your values will change, the things that matter to you will change, and it's okay. Like it doesn't mean you have to care about everything all at the same time. Everything can have its season. So Good advice.
Yep.
And then speaking of books, you're also finally, I don't know how long you've been wanting to, but you're writing your own book, which is exciting.
Yes. I am and I'm not. So like I am in the sense that I went back and I'm like right now I'm actually more excited about serving people one-on-one. So and I know for a while I was beating myself up over it because I want to write multiple books. More than writing them, actually, I want to read them and listen to them myself as we've discussed.
I love it.
So like I know my people will be more about audiobooks because I love to read with my earbuds in this season of life, and probably all of them. I love having a physical book too. But anyway, so I want to write multiple books. And I've been saying that forever and investing in help forever. And then I just keep coming up to a wall. And I realize now in the position where I'm at in this moment, it's like, because if I had written the book even 6 months ago, my perceptions have shifted so in such a meaningful way, it would be a different book if I had written it 6 months ago. And then likewise right now. So that said, all of the stuff that I do record in solo episodes that live over at Naptime Empires, those solo episodes, like I went and used, what's the tool? It's called Temi.com. It's like the auto AI version of Rev.com.
Yeah.
And I transcribed all of them and put them into this monstrous Google Doc. It was like over 160,000 words between those podcast episodes and then a couple of live streams I did with friends. I was like, oh my gosh, I've written this book with my mouth and my microphone like 3 times over.
Yep.
Could I just please get it into the physical form? So I'm not currently at this moment sure how I'm organizing it and when I'm getting it out there. But I do know I would love a Naptime Empires book, but I also feel like there are 20 more. Even just this morning, I thought of another children's book that I would like to get out there. So they'll all come in perfect time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at with books.
Awesome. Actually, now that you're telling me that story, I remember Ben saying like that you crack him up because you're like, I just write when I feel like it. And then I don't. Like, I don't have to have it done in a certain amount of time. I'm just going to write a chapter today and then I might not pick it up for 6 more months. Like, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's all there. Again, it's all there in different forms. So people who are like, Nikki, I want your book. I'm like, well, go read my podcast or read my podcast. Listen to my podcast and that'll hold you over. Yeah. And if you want to read blog posts, there's hundreds of those too. And so like nothing's missing. Yeah. It's just in a different form. And eventually I will put it into a book form and it'll be really exciting when I do. Right. But right now I'm just like,
yep,
other things.
Well, and how does that feel? Just, I think people need to, they've heard a lot of information and we've talked a little bit about feelings, but what does that feel like? Because for me, it makes me want to just take a deep breath and just feel so calm. Yes. When you move into a space of like, I don't have to, and it's going to flow at the time it needs to flow and it's going to come out when it needs to come out. Like, I don't think very many people experience that level of letting go and peace and alignment. So what does it feel like for you?
Thank you for saying that. Because just today, like I was just messaging one of my best buddies on Voxer and I was like, this is scary because like really owning helping people with exactly what you just said. Like even after this call, I'm having a call with a brand designer where like I'm pretty clear and very picky, Nikki, on what I want things to look like. I have a very clear visual of what I want the next iteration of my brand to look like. But as I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's literally like visual oxygen because it's sunshine, mountains, textures of grass and trees and wood and nature and crystals, but like natural textures. Yeah. And I literally want her to feel when she's interacting with my brand online that it's like a breath of fresh air, like a grounding breath of fresh air. So it's so perfect that you just said that. Actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Because that's what I need, like that's what I have needed. So that's what I can on 2 feet with 100% integrity be like, look, I can help you if you want, and it's okay if you don't want, and you want to go through this the hard way and create a 3-year squiggle where you want to run away from the internet or book a one-way ticket and don't talk to anybody. Like you can 100% do that and you'll get the benefits that you need. But if you'd rather not, and you would like to lead for the long haul and actually enjoy the success that you're creating without sucking all the fun out of your business or sacrificing health, wealth, and relationships along the way, I got some ideas and some tools and also just space to hold, because so many women like us who are valuing family, but also creative expression and also wealth building, whether that comes in business or career or whatever, it's a huge output and we need an equally huge input. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I'm looking forward to work with just like a handful of clients and then develop the IP that'll ultimately go into a book that can serve hundreds and millions of people. Yeah. But like working with a few clients really on this, like holding the space and the container where she can just be, because she feels like she's got to be everybody's everything and she's running on fumes and more out of overwhelm than overflow. Mm-hmm. And so it's about like making sure that her battery is charged so that she's not going to burn out and want to run away on us. Again, if she wants to, that's cool. But for the people who don't want to because they really do care about their mission and how they're showing up, just practicing the presence imperfectly, which is perfection. Like actually I used to resent like the word perfectionist and all of that because I'm like, I am a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. But the journey I've been on in the last even just 2 years or even just the last 1 year is just realizing that we're actually all perfect. I used to be like, no one's perfect. I'm like, actually, we are all perfect. Like that, everything is perfect, even though we don't see it currently.
Yeah.
And it takes some digging to actually get there. When you're actually present enough to see both sides of things, you can actually see like, oh, wow, okay. There is clearly an order to it, even though we don't see it. And especially though we don't, but the more that you can see it, then that's the more present you can be because you're not so attached to it looking in this particular way.
Yeah.
And that's not the excuse to be like, if you don't feel like working today, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. You know, like we're not going to, like you have to be realistic. But truly, I think that linking it to your values is the way for you to get inspired. And I talked about that, I think, whenever we were in Vegas with Nicole's event.
Yeah.
But linking whatever it is that you have to do, even though you don't actually feel inspired to do it, when you can link it to your values. This is the John DeMartini work. When you can link it to your highest values and what you really do care about, you're naturally lighting that little spark of inspiration. You got at least a good 15 to 20 minutes of of charge to work with on that before you got to then link it again. But when you do a good job of that, then you can be inspired. It's not like you have to wait around waiting for inspiration to fall into your lap.
Yeah.
You know, if you're willing to just sit and be in it, you can see there's always a lesson that's going to point you to exactly what you need to do.
I love it. You are so full of good, amazing nuggets of inspiration and information. Oh, I adore you. I adore you. Did you just say I know?
No, but that would have been funnier. I said thank you.
Oh my gosh.
But
let's pretend you said I know. I know.
I know. I know. It's awesome, isn't it? Aren't you so glad I'm on your podcast?
Best day of your life.
No, I humbly with my hand over my heart, truly thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast because I can't, Jada told me about it and I don't know who told her about it, that phrase of like, you can't read the label from inside the jar. So it's so often that we're blinded by the familiar of what we know and we assume everybody else knows or the perceptions that we have that we assume everybody else can see. So thank you for inviting me to come out and turn the mic on and share. I know that it means a lot because you love and value your audience. So it means a lot to make that introduction and to introduce me to them. So I genuinely appreciate it and super grateful for the chance to have this conversation.
Thank you. There's a lot of gratitude happening right now in this conversation and I love it.
That's pure presence. Yep. Same.
Absolutely. Okay. Question I ask everybody, even though I'm really sad to end this and we could talk for hours and hours. I ask everybody at the end of every episode, what makes you a marvelous mom?
I would say my commitment to imperfectly but perfectly knowing and loving and being who I am. Because that's ultimately the truest expression and like me doing my thing and in my way. That's what I want for my kiddos. That's what I want for the whole world, is for like all of us to take up that space. Like I said, no more and no less, but to be who we are, and loving other people helps us love who we are. Like, you know, circle of life. Yeah. All of that.
Oh, I love it. Beautiful answer. And the funny thing about that question is sometimes people stall and I'm like, you've been answering that question for the last 30 to 45 minutes. And this is just a quick little summary. Like we have a total glimpse of what makes you an amazing mom and an amazing woman. And so I'm really, really grateful that you've chosen to spend some time here sharing all of these things. You know, the coolest thing about a podcast or any form of sharing, I guess, is you're collecting all this information and all of these experiences and you're just perpetuating it on for other people. Like you've learned a lot that I needed to hear and inevitably everybody else needed to hear. So thank you for being brave.
And I can't wait to go back and listen to more of your stuff about homeschooling because I'm like, I dream of a hybrid-y kind of situation. I don't know if I could hack it, but now I want to go find more of your stuff about that experience and learn more from you because
you could totally hack it. And there's going to be more. You'll probably be better off listening to newer episodes because this is such a new development for us. But yeah.
Yay! Ooh, exciting.
This is current transition. So,
awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again, Nikki. You're amazing. Everybody can go find Nikki on naptimeempires.com. And if you're interested, if you can't tell, she has a way with words. And I think my husband Ben's actually bought your course and loved it. And you can find that at courseaboutcopy.com. And obviously, it sounds like there's going to be even more to learn from you and to gain from you. So everybody keep your eye on Nikki because it sounds like more changes are coming in 2020. So
Yes, everywhere. Nikki Elledge Brown. Tag me on Insta. Take a screenshot and tag us in so I can say hi to you. And thanks for listening. I appreciate that your time is precious. The best gift, the energy focus too.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a marvelous day. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to take action right now, you're feeling inspired and you're feeling enlightened, and you really want to own this role as a marvelous mom, go to the website, marvelousmomsclub.com/me, and create your own personal Marvelous Moms Manifesto. That is a tongue twister. marvelousmomsclub.com/me. You go fill in some great information, and in the end, you'll have a beautiful manifesto to display where only you can see or the whole family can see, where you can really, really own your role as a marvelous mom and step inside those goals and those ambitions and dreams that you have to become an even more marvelous mom to your beautiful family. So again, marvelousmomsclub.com/me. We will see you over there.